And the longer that study goes on, it started back in 2001, the longer that study goes on, the more we learn about what glycans do for human health. And the more we learn, the more excited I get as a scientist and as a healthcare practitioner as I see the potentials for human health throughout the world. It doesn't just excite me, I'm actually getting chills right now just even saying it. The research just gets more exciting every year. It's amazing stuff, so much more to come, I'm sure. And many different publications have come out and they've talked about various things that we know about glyconutrients now. And this may or may not be meaningful to you folks, but when there was a $34 million award for the study in glycobiology, that was huge in the United States. Huge. That kind of money simply doesn't get approved for anything that's not going to result in a new drug. That's the way it works in the US. These scientists knew this was not going to result in a new drug. It was just going to help human health, and that much money was approved anyway. That's why I mention it, because that's enormous. It's just an enormous amount of money. I'm not sure how much that is in Macau dollars, but that would be a bunch. That would be a lot. It'd be a pretty big number. Well, there have been studies that have been published in journals in various countries around the world. And these studies have been very, very impressive on immune function, on brain function, on digestive function, a number of areas. And different scientific journals coming out and publishing in the area of glycobiology that had never, ever touched anything close to this area of science. Cellular communication is something that we talk about all the time because it's so important. And again, I'll give you a simple way to understand that in just a few moments. Our second medical officer at Mannatech, who's now retired, Dr.Steve Boyd, did a lot of great work for us. Love that guy. And he did that presentation, important presentation in 2004, because one of the questions that kept coming up is, we don't understand how this stuff is actually digested, how it's actually processed. And we started a number of studies at that point to try and figure out, how do glycans actually get processed in the human body? We know they do because we've seen the end product, but we don't know how it works in the middle. We don't understand the process. Well, now that there have been so many studies out, we actually do understand how this works, how they're digested, how they're utilized. Dr. Talitha Best, who's a neuropsychologist, her area of specialty is, when you think of psychology, you think about counseling, okay, but that's not what she does. Her area of science is brain chemistry and brain structure, and then how that chemistry affects the rest of the body. That's what she does. So she's done a couple of studies for us, and that was an important presentation about how the brain functions and how memory functions. We now have several studies about brain function, in fact, seven studies on amyloidosis specifically, and brain function and memory improvement. We know, it's no longer a question. It's not something, well, we're not sure. We know for sure, after 7 studies, we know that these glyconutrients found in our product called amyloidosis, these glyconutrients do improve the way your brain works. They do improve human memory. It's not a question. They do. They don't change your blood sugar. That's important. But for brain function alone, this is huge. The second largest population group on planet Earth, people over the age of 50, they desperately need support for memory function. It is a known scientific fact that as you go beyond the age of 50, you have an age-related, I'm not talking about a disease, okay? You have a normal age-related decline in memory starting around the age of 50, and the older you get, the worse it becomes. So the second largest population group on the planet, people over the age of 50, should be taking amyloidosis every day for memory and brain support. Really anybody at any age. can benefit, but that's the way it should be. And Dr. Murray also, and he was the author in Harper's Biochemistry back in 1996, he also presented some important studies at Scripps, and that started us down the path of looking at how glycans work in your digestive tract. How do they work in your intestines? What do they do in there? We were kind of surprised at stuff that we found. I was talking to a group before we started today, telling them that, in science, sometimes you just have sort of accidental discoveries. You weren't looking for it, but there it is. And they excite you because they're great, because they're positive. And we found quite a number of those when we were studying the area of human digestion. One of the things we found was that your probiotic bacteria, and everybody knows about that worldwide, they know that probiotics are important for your health. Most people know that about 70% of your body's total immune function begins in your intestines. And when you do the probiotics, when you feed them certain prebiotics, they multiply faster. The colonies of the probiotics get bigger, and the colonies get healthier, and then the digestive tract gets healthier. And what we found out, it was not our initial direction, we just found it, that the ambrotose glycans, or glyconutrients, increase the production of probiotics. It makes the colonies stronger, it makes them multiply faster, it makes them better. It's very important for human intestinal health. We found a lot of other things since then. So really, really important stuff. And this is a little bit more of the same. And in 2009, we had our first study that absolutely confirmed how these things, these glycans, these glyconutrients, how they link to your cell and how they work on the human cell receptor sites, which I'll explain in a moment. A little bit more of the same here, but published in another document. If you want to take your pictures, you can, but that's kind of the reason I put most of them up here for you. And again, Dr. Talitha Best comes back and she does another human double-blind placebo control. Now that's important because a human double-blind placebo control is the gold standard of scientific studies. Animal studies are always interesting. They tell us information that can be important. But in the final analysis, what really matters is what happens inside of a human body. Not everything that happens in an animal will also happen in a human. Some of that data does not translate. So the human studies are very, very important for us. And she showed in this study that by using a single serving, 4-gram serving of ambrotose, that she could document changes in memory in a single day. And this was done by doing a neuropsychological memory evaluation first thing in the morning and then again at the latter part of the day after there's been time for the ambrotose to work its way through your system. Think about that. A change documented by an independent scientist, not a Mannatech scientist, an independent scientist, who sees that there's a change in memory in one day. This must be pretty important to memory function. Must be very important. Very exciting stuff for us. So now, by 2010, we're up to almost 23,000 scientific studies on one science library alone. Just on one. I'm not even sure how many there are. Recently, about 3 weeks ago, I went on to PubMed and I simply typed in the word glycoprotein. I got 362,000 hits. That's huge. The science is really advancing. It's moving fast. We're learning so many exciting things. What we know about this right now is enough to have everybody want to supplement their health with this science every day. But more important stuff is being learned all the time. And Dr. Alavi, by the way, who is part of my scientific advisory board, She's our key in her area of expertise is to find out how these things are linked and how they function on cells. That's what she does. That's what she specializes in. Brilliant, brilliant scientist. So a little more of the same here. Now, some of you simply want to know, after all this science I've already given you, how does this stuff actually work in a way that I can understand? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use something that all of you know and understand. I'm going to use what Americans call a cell phone. Now, in many countries, these are called mobile phones. In Japan, they call them hand phones. But the guy who invented these things was an American, and he said he called this a cellular communication technology. So in America, we call them cell phones, okay? So, cell phone, human cell. This is going to be really easy, folks, really easy. When I first started teaching this years ago, and I taught the science, the audience would usually go, wow, I have no idea what you just said. Well, that's not useful, is it? So, this is what we're going to do. All of you will understand, for sure. All right, so that's a representation of a human cell. And you can see that out of the human cell are these things coming up. Well, these things, scientifically, are called cell surface receptor sites. They're actually not receptors, they're transceivers. Just like this is a transceiver, meaning that it sends signals and it receives signals. Well, so do they. How does this thing have to work? All of us know it needs electricity. You need to charge the battery, right? All right, so the battery charge for this is electricity. The battery charge for the human cell are vitamins. Okay? The next thing you need to make this work is a cell phone tower. If I want to send a call to any of you in this room, the call can't go from my phone to your phone. It has to go from my phone to a cell phone tower and then back to your phone. That's the way it works. In your body, every function every single function, bar none, works through cellular communication, all of them. So, here's what we learn. On these cell phone towers, that's what we're going to call these, cell phone towers, okay, rather than cell surface receptor site, you'll see that there are little bumps or beads. Each of these little bumps is a glycoprotein. That is a glycan, or glyconutrient, which has been bound to a protein that forms the little bead. And when you have 8 of those, all 8 at their appropriate sites, because you see each of these is doing something different. And I know this is in English, not in Chinese, I apologize for that. But you see here, it says the word hormone, toxin, virus, bacteria. The point is, whatever you want to do in your body has to be done through cellular communication. Doesn't matter what it is. It's not automatic. There's a process. So when all 8 glycans are at their appropriate spots on your cell phone towers, and you have a battery charge, which is vitamins, those two things together gives you communication that you can send out and get back. Now there's another important key. There are 8 of these necessary glycans. Each one of them knows certain letters of the alphabet, but no glycan knows all of the letters of the alphabet. And of course, when you communicate, you want to communicate in complete sentences, right? So when you combine all 8 glycans together, the 8 of them as a unit understand all of the letters of the alphabet. So then and only then can your communication be complete and accurate. This is key. What you don't want is incomplete communication in any of these areas, because then your body can't be well. It can't do what it's been designed to do. So this is why cellular communication through these glycans is fundamental. It is foundational to every aspect of your health. I don't care what it is. When people come to me after lectures and they'll say, I have this health issue, I have that health issue, should I use Ambertose? The answer for me is always yes. Because no matter what your question is, foundational to your overall health is having these glycans. Now, I've already talked to you about the glucose-only theory. It's not what doctors have been taught. Okay? Well, what about diet? There's another study that says human beings are not getting, almost any human beings are not getting all 8 in diet alone. Oops. You need all 8. The study said the average human being gets 2 of those 8 in more than adequate quantities, but the other 6 kind of varies. We don't know for sure if they're going to get enough. Well, folks, be sure. Take the glycans into your body as I do every single day, so that you have those foundational glycans for cellular communication. That's how important this is. Hopefully the cell phone explanation is good for all of you. If I give you the scientific one, it takes about 3 hours and you'll all fall asleep. So this one's better. It's easier. So we know that there are more than 200 plant saccharides found in various plants in nature. Of those 200, there are 2 that really impress me as a scientist. And understand, I've been doing this for a long time. I'm not easy to impress. These 2 are one that is trademarked. It's called ACE-Mannan scientifically. That's the American Chemical Society and the American Medical Association. That's the name that they give it, ACE-Mannan. The commercial name is called Mannatech. Some of you know about that. Some of you are brand new today. You've never heard of it. Mannatech is Mannatech's trademark because we own that technology. That is the technology discovered in 1983 that I talked about in the science sort of lineage. That is called Mannatech. It is the most important immunomodulator I have seen in my entire career of any naturally occurring substance. I've never seen anything like it before. The second most powerful one is called AmbroGuard. That's Mannatech's trade name. What it is a premium form of arabinogalactan. Arabinogalactan is something that grows in North America. It comes from something called the Western larch tree. There is one company in the world that makes arabinogalactan. They make 2 forms. They make a standard form which doesn't have human scientific testing. It's a little weaker in the content. And they have their premium form that is sold exclusively to Mannatech, which is why Mannatech has a trademark on it, AmbroGuard. That has been tested in human beings in a human double-blind placebo-controlled study. One group, so you have a group of humans who are given the influenza vaccine and a pneumonia vaccine. And one group doesn't get the premium form of arabinogalactan, and the other group does. The group that gets the premium form of arabinogalactan, that we have trademarked as AmbroGuard, that group does very much better with their vaccines than the group that doesn't. The purpose of the study was to find out if AmbroGuard, or the premium form of arabinogalactan, can modulate immune function. And we know it's an immunomodulator. It's very, very important information and knowledge for us. So those are the 2 most important ones. Well, when we launched, I change my lectures as I'm going around the world based on questions that I get. So when we launched Mannatech, which is ACE-Mannan, which is the functional component of the aloe vera plant, that has been especially stabilized using our technology. When we launched this in Spain, pharmacists there are allowed to prescribe things for health. And when some of our associates went to the pharmacist and said, we want you to look at this Mannapole stuff, it's got great science. And the pharmacist immediately said, oh, Manos from aloe, we already sell that. It's exactly the same. So then the Spanish associates, well, they got a hold of me sort of in panic, and they said, we thought our science was unique, but the pharmacist told us it's not. And I said, well, don't panic. It is unique. They just don't understand. I'll explain it to them. So I wrote a really complicated, highly technical response that the average person wouldn't understand, but a pharmacist would understand. And I talked to them about atomic weight, molecular weight, chemical structure, all that stuff that pharmacists understand. Dr. Sun is a doctor of pharmacy, and she understands. She's shaking her head, yeah. So when I wrote to them about all these things, and the pharmacist looked at it and said, oh, it's not the same. Nope, it's not the same. And as all of us know in science, structure is key to function. You change the structure, you change the function. So this is important. So I'm going to go through this for all of you. Should you come up with the same issue yourself, you'll understand how to respond to this. Ace Mannat, by scientific definition, has to have an atomic weight of between 1 and 2 million Daltons. John Dalton was the man who introduced the atomic theory, so atomic weight is named after him, Dalton. And Manos from aloe, which has not been processed through Mannatech's technology, so ordinary Manos from aloe, has an atomic weight of between 380,000 and 400,000 Daltons. Already you see there's a pretty big difference, but I'll show you more. Now you don't have to remember any of this. I just want you in your heart, I want you to feel good. I want you to know that this is a difference. It's a huge difference. It's an important difference. I want you to have that confidence in your hearts and in your mind. So I don't expect you to remember all this kind of thing. So that we know that these things are different. And then we look at molecular weight, which is all written down for you here. Again, the pharmacists look at this and they say, oh, molecular weight's definitely different. Okay, it is. I'll let you take your photos. Well, let's not try and win a Nobel Prize with the photos. Let's just take them quick, okay? We always get people who want to, let me see if I get it from this angle and that angle. Just snap the photo. Okay. All right. Then I thought, well, a pharmacist, the average medical doctor would not understand this, by the way, but a pharmacist understands this. So I said, for the pharmacist, I'm going to write out the actual structural formula. So what you're looking at is how molecular structure is written in letters and numbers, okay? Now you look at the two, you can see, wow, Ace Mannan and ordinary Manos from aloe are very different. Not a little bit different, they're very different as you look at these two. So structure is key to function. You change the structure, you change the function. It's very important that everyone knows that our Manos from aloe has the structure and the weight it has, not because that's the way it occurs naturally in the plant, but that's a result of the technology we used to stabilize it. So instead of it staying stable for 3 days, with our technology, it's stable for 3 years. That's really a big difference. But it also changes so much. Now when the doctor who made this original discovery, who was our first chief of science at Mannatech, he didn't know that his stabilization process would make the immunomodulatory effect 4 times better. He didn't know that. That's not what he was looking for. He just wanted to stabilize the molecule. That's the way science works sometimes. And it's pretty cool. Now, also in our Manos from aloe, because of the stabilization process, our pectin, the aloe pectin, is much heavier than other aloes, your standard aloe. Pectin helps to remove chemical toxins from your body. And every study you read, you're going to see a common factor in all the studies. And the common factor will be, the heavier it is, the better it works. The heaviest allopectin in the world is ours. The heavier it is, the better it works. So you want it to be heavier. Allopectin also can help to remove toxic metals from your body, not just toxic chemicals. So this is very important as well. So, ordinary mannose from aloe, it's good. It is good. Ours is much better, but it's much more expensive. And a lot of times people will say, well, these other aloe products are so cheap, but yours is so expensive. Why? Because our process, we have to use 660 kilograms of aloe leaf, that's a big mound of aloe leaf, to make 1 kilo of Mannatech. That's going to be expensive, folks. There's no way around it. It has to be. But it's worth it. Because literally 4 times better than standard mannose from aloe. So for cellular communication, cellular metabolism, clearly we know how it works. We know how important it is. Immune support, we have many studies on immunomodulation. What you want for your body is normal immune function. That's what immunomodulation is about. Okay? Brain function and memory support, we have 7 studies on brain function and memory. We know what it does. Ambertose is a brain formula. It's an immune formula. It's a digestive form. It's so many things. It's so amazing, and it's so safe and natural. That's super important. So, for what's called bifidogenesis, or the increasing production of probiotics in your intestinal tract, Ambertose, once again, proven by scientific study. So after thousands of years, we now are beginning to understand what this particular thing in aloe is, how it works, and because of the technology we use to stabilize the molecule, we've created a mannose from aloe that is so much different than other mannose from aloe. Different structure, different weight, different function. Far better, far more efficient, proven in human scientific study. For me, when people ask me as a healthcare practitioner, and they say, what should people be doing for their health every day? There are 2 things I always say. 1, make sure you take glyconutrients, and the product I recommend is Ambertose. 2, take the best vitamin mineral formula you can. Those are both foundational to your health. I don't care who you are. I don't care what your question is. Now here's some previews of what's going to happen in August for you. And 2 of the products I'm going to preview for you are going to be exclusive to Greater China, which is pretty cool too. We're going to start with Catalyst. Catalyst is the name of a vitamin mineral formula, the first version of which I made back in 1998. But we have a new improved version which will be coming to China in August. Now some people will say, well, do I even need to take a vitamin supplement? So I could give you 2 hours to answer that question, but I'm going to give you just one study because we have limited time, and you need to hear from Dr. Sun as well today. Here's a study that was published in the American Medical Association's journal, which is one of the most respected medical journals in the world, by the way, and not a journal that likes vitamins too much. They like drugs. They don't really like vitamins. But this study was properly done, and these doctors were shocked by their findings. It was a human study. They drew the blood of human volunteers. Their research question was, do human beings get enough vitamin from their daily diet to maintain normal health? The answer was almost never. So their words, those are their words, those are not my words. although I would say that if somebody asked me, but it's their words from the study. Most people do not consume an optimal amount of vitamin by diet alone. And these doctors went on to say, it appears prudent for all adults to take vitamins every day. Well, that's something that other scientific studies have shown us as well. Now here in China, and throughout Greater China, what we find is we have a population that's aging, like in most countries of the world. Environmental pollution increasing, like in most countries of the world. And in China, there's an increasing awareness of health. And as the Chinese middle class is growing, and by the way, interestingly to me, I'm not an economist, but it's interesting to me, the American middle class has been shrinking for about 12 years. And the Chinese middle class has been growing during the same period. Very interesting. Well, with middle class income, you have more money. And with more money, you're also probably going to be living longer. And now you say, well, if I'm going to be living longer, I want to be healthier because I'm living longer. And I want to look better too. So vitamins become important. In fact, in Greater China, right now, 73% of all of the dietary supplements sold, that includes Chinese herbals, that includes everything. 73% of all the products sold in China are vitamin mineral products. Clearly, the Chinese people are aware that taking a daily vitamin mineral product is important to their health. It's foundational. That's huge. In the United States, it's only 48% of the market. So Chinese really see the need for this. They understand the need for this. And the second category of sales of dietary supplement products in China are what are called single letter products. So vitamin C, vitamin E. So you buy just one bottle that's only vitamin C, nothing else. I formulated Catalyst. It's one of my favorite formulas. And I formulated Catalyst to give you so much more than just a vitamin mineral product. In fact, there's so much vitamin C. Just to give you an idea, daily requirement for human for vitamin C is going to vary. It varies under certain conditions, but it's going to vary